Hi, I'm Aileen. My sister stole the business I built from scratch, pitched it with my ex, and invited the world to celebrate, without ever mentioning my name. They called it her success. I called it mine until she deleted me from the story. But the launch party? That's where I showed up. Have you ever watched someone take credit for something you poured your soul into? Would your family do this to you? Drop a comment. Where are you watching from and what time is it right now? I want to know who's hearing this. And if it hits home, the first thing I noticed wasn't Carla's face on the screen. It was her voice, my voice, telling my story. I was halfway through my morning coffee, scrolling through LinkedIn like I did every morning, still half asleep, when the podcast autoplayed. She was sitting on a beige couch, hair slicked into a professional bun, eyes full of false humility. I started building Wellness Era because I wanted women to feel seen, to be supported when they need it most, especially after childbirth. I dropped my mug. The ceramic cracked against the sink, but I didn't flinch. I leaned in, my pulse climbing. The words she used, they weren't similar to mine. They were mine, word for word. From the pitch deck I had written at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, trying not to wake up my dog as I cried over whether I was good enough to launch a business. She even paused in the same places I used to pause when I practiced in the mirror. The caption read, "Exclusive, Carla Reed, founder of Wellness Era, shares her journey." Founder journey. There was no we, no my sister and I, just her. I refreshed the video page. Over 60,000 views in less than 24 hours. The comments were full of admiration. Women thanking her for her bravery, for being a pioneer. My throat tightened. I felt like I was breathing through cotton. That voice, it had been mine. Then came the second blow. My phone buzzed. Family group chat. I ignored it at first, but then my aunt's message preview caught my eye. "So proud of Carla. Look what she's done." I opened it. Video link. Same podcast. Heart emojis from my mom. Fire emojis from my cousin. Nobody mentioned me. Not once. I scrolled up. The last time anyone had messaged in this group about me was 8 months ago, when I'd posted about my prototype launch. 2 replies. One was a thumbs up. Now Carla copies my blueprint, changes the font, and she's a visionary? I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Then I closed the chat. They didn't forget me. They deleted me. I stood up too fast, knocking the stool into the kitchen island. I steadied myself and walked past the hallway mirror. I looked tired, not defeated, but close. My office door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, stacked boxes of unused prototypes lined the far wall. Beautiful packages designed with care and coded algorithms. Months of silence from investors. 3 years of sacrifice. Carla had never even touched a piece of this. Until I showed her. Until I trusted her. I remembered the first night I told her the idea. 2 years ago. She came over for dinner. I made us shrimp pasta and poured cheap white wine into coffee mugs because I didn't own real glasses. I was nervous, too excited to eat, my hands shaky with hope. I want to create something that helps women after birth. Not just physically, emotionally, financially. I've been testing a survey algorithm for personalizing their recovery boxes. It's working. She smiled then, leaned forward like she was proud. That's genius, Aileen. Let me help you pitch it right. I believed her. Now I stared at my whiteboard, the old company name, Motherframe, still ghosted behind half-erased marker ink. A name Carla had called Too Sentimental before renaming it behind my back. I opened my laptop, created a folder, named it Truth and Receipts. Inside it, I placed a screenshot of her podcast, a side-by-side of my original deck, a list of family names from the chat who shared it. I recorded a voice memo on my phone, my voice firm for the first time in days. They took the version of me they liked and made her their own, but I remember who I was before they needed to steal it. Just as I hit save, a voice note from Darla popped up. "You saw the podcast, right? You might want to check the pitch deck Carla sent to Lotus Wellness. It's familiar." The call came while I was sorting invoices. A notification lit up my phone, flashing Mom. For a split second, I hesitated. Maybe she had seen the podcast. Maybe she was calling to ask if I was okay, if I wanted to talk. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, cheerful, like it was a Sunday brunch check-in. I just got off the phone with Carla. She's got that big launch coming up next month. She said she might need a little help backstage. Nothing fancy. You've always been so good with details. I paused. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. You want me to work her event? I asked slowly. Like a volunteer? It's not work, she replied quickly. It's family. I mean, it's her big day. She just wants it to go smoothly. And you're so calm under pressure. I swallowed hard. Do you know whose idea this company was? There was silence on the other end. I'm just saying, maybe this isn't the time to get into all that, she murmured. Let's support each other, huh? I nodded even though she couldn't see. Then I said it. What I always say. What makes things easier for her? Sure. The word tasted like rust. Later that evening, the group chat came alive. I didn't check it right away. I was still staring at my email, trying to draft a follow-up to a client who had ghosted me. But the little preview lines kept sliding down my screen. Aunt Carol, Cousin Lucas, all of them lighting up the thread. I opened it. At the top, a slick, rose gold invitation with a photo of Carla in a white blazer. Arms crossed, smile glossy. The header read, Carla Reed, co-founder and visionary of Wellness Era underneath. In all caps, private launch celebration, invite only. Aunt Carol sent 3 heart emojis. Lucas said, we knew you'd make it big, Carla. Another cousin shared their RSVP. My mother replied with a line of clapping hands. I scrolled, no mention of me. Then I saw Carla's message buried between the comments. Only core team on the list. You understand, right? I didn't reply. I didn't even breathe. I just stared at those words until the screen blurred. I deleted the thread. Not muted, not ignored. Deleted. I got up, went to the drawer where I kept old invitations, birthdays, graduation ceremonies, events where we used to be Carla and Aileen. The duo. I found one. Carla's college graduation. The card was printed on soft cardstock. My name had been listed beside hers, under Organized By. I remembered baking cupcakes at 2 a.m., tying gold string on gift bags, ironing her white dress because she couldn't get the collar right. She'd stood on stage that day while I stood behind the curtain holding tissues and her backup shoes. Now she didn't even want me in the room. You know you're no longer family when they forget you were ever there to begin with. A notification buzzed. It was from LinkedIn, a name I hadn't seen in years. Tracy Bell, former mentor. The message preview read, I just got an invite to something Carla's launching. Is this the project you told me about 2 years ago? I knew the document before I even opened it. The subject line read, Thought you'd want to see this. Carla and Paul's new pitch to Angel Suite. My former contact, Lisa Chen, had no clue what she was igniting with that email. Or maybe she did. I clicked the deck open. Each slide loaded like a memory I hadn't agreed to share. Same layout, same formatting. My formatting, down to the margins and shade of coral I'd picked after arguing with myself for hours about approachability versus professionalism. Page 3. Projected Q3 growth based on integrated personalization model. My stomach dropped. They hadn't just stolen my words. They had stolen my forecast. Only the title had changed. Wellness Era. The same shallow name Carla once mocked for sounding like a juice cleanse in a box. Back then, she told me, your branding's cute, but it needs to feel expensive. Now it was hers. I scrolled down, reading through repackaged sentences. Phrases lifted directly from my original notes, only fluffed and reworded slightly, like someone took my voice and ran it through a corporate translation filter. I didn't know heartbreak could come with bullet points. The air around me went still. I remembered the last time I showed that deck to anyone. Summer 2022. My hands trembled as I passed the printed copy across Paul's kitchen table. He skimmed the pages with detached interest, tapping a pen against the table. It's a little earnest, he'd said finally, lips curving into a patient smile. Your compassion shows, but maybe let someone else handle the numbers. Let yourself be the heart. I'll help shape the rest. I remember nodding. I remember believing that what we were building was more than just business. That we meant something. Now I realized it never had. Angel Suite had ghosted me after that pitch. No feedback, no closure. I thought I failed, that I wasn't good enough. Turns out they just needed someone louder, someone shinier, someone like Carla, backed by Paul. I printed both decks, mine and theirs, side by side, identical like twins raised in different households. One nurtured with intent, the other stylized for theft. Red pen in hand, I began circling every matching phrase, every reused number. I didn't cry, I didn't flinch. I marked each theft with clinical precision. They think I'm too gentle to burn bridges. I built the damn bridge. I'll light it myself. My phone buzzed. A text. Paul. Hope you're well. Let's not make this messy, okay? I didn't expect to see my shoulder in the shot. That part caught me off guard. It was early, barely 7 a.m., and I was scrolling through LinkedIn while my coffee steeped, trying to avoid anything that smelled like Carla. But there she was. Top post, promoted article, a cover story from a glossy tech media outlet. Carla Reed leads the wellness era into the future. I clicked, heart thudding. The header image froze me. It was from the Wellness Expo I hosted last spring. The lavender lighting, the backdrop I hand-designed, the booth that took 3 all-nighters to assemble. Carla stood front and center, chin tilted like she'd always owned the space. And just to the left, barely visible, my shoulder. My face had been cropped, clean, deliberate. I read the caption 3 times as if it might change. Carla Reed, the visionary founder behind Wellness Era, a solo force in design, logistics, and leadership. Solo. I wasn't just forgotten, I was replaced. I scrolled further, praying it was a fluke, but the article doubled down. The journalist wrote about Carla's attention to detail, overseeing everything from supplier negotiations to event logistics. Event logistics. I nearly laughed. While I stayed up sorting 250 gift bags, she took selfies for her story highlights. While I printed emergency name tags after a vendor canceled, she was flirting with a wellness influencer by the snack bar. And now? Now she was the one who handled everything. My phone buzzed. Mom. I knew better. But I looked. She'd shared the article in the family chat, captioned with 3 heart emojis and "Our girl made it." Our girl? No one said a word when I launched my prototype. No one even acknowledged the silent nights I spent in that cramped guest room writing emails, building code, hand-packing sample boxes. But Carla smiled for a camera, and suddenly, she was our girl. I dropped my phone. My legs carried me to my bookshelf like muscle memory. Bottom drawer, back folder, an old article, my name. A launch I had run from scratch 2 years ago. In that piece, Carla was listed as creative advisor. She hadn't even shown up to half the meetings, and now I was her ghostwriter, her logistic girl. I was never silent, I whispered. You just turned the volume down. I opened my laptop, drafted an email to the editor, attached proof, timelines, invoices, photos, the article I'd saved, the mock-ups I sent Carla, timestamps included. I stared at the send button. Then I clicked save draft instead. I wasn't going to play their game. Not yet, not on their terms. I opened a new folder, Documentation Phase 2. Inside, I placed every piece of proof I had. A slow, deliberate build. On a sticky note by my desk, I wrote in red ink, "They are not erasing me, I'm documenting them." My phone rang. Darla. "You need to see this," she said, breathless. "Paul just gave an interview. He didn't say your name, but trust me, it's worse than omission this time." I sat in the back row, behind a line of men in matching navy suits who whispered about seed rounds and exit strategy. I didn't come to be seen. I came to see. Paul walked onto the stage like he always had. Confident, rehearsed, just slick enough to make people believe he belonged under spotlights. His slide deck appeared behind him, polished and empty. Pretty but hollow. "Let me tell you a quick story," he began, pacing slowly. "There was once a collaborator of mine, brilliant, but fragile. She had ideas, but no resilience." He paused, just enough for the room to lean in. "We used to call her A." Laughter. And just like that, my name wasn't just erased. It was twisted into a punchline. He kept going, kept selling, kept charming. But I didn't hear the rest, because all I could hear was him whispering that same name 2 years ago, in a dark hallway after we filed our first LLC papers. You'll always be A to me, he'd said, brushing my hair behind my ear. I used to think that meant I mattered. Now it meant I was material. I left the room before the applause, walked fast through the hallway, blinking hard. My heels echoed off the tile louder than I wanted. I didn't look back. Back home, a message was already waiting. A mutual friend had sent me Carla's latest post, a screenshot of Paul's pitch, captioned, "So proud of Paul, such a clean pivot from toxic partnerships." I stared at it. Then I downloaded it. I opened the folder on my desktop. Receipts, human plus legal. I added a new document. Humiliation Phase 3, entry line. Mocked in public, crossed the line, no forgiveness after this. I didn't cry. I didn't feel much of anything. Just the tight heat in my ribs that always came when shame collided with rage. I opened my voice memo app and hit record. From this point forward, I said slowly, I won't be silent. The next time you use my story for your laughs, I'll make sure your laughter ends in lawsuits. I ended the recording, saved it. Then I texted Paul. You get one chance to apologize. You used it. No emojis, no punctuation, just truth. He turned my love into a punchline. I'm turning his career into a cautionary tale. My phone vibrated again. Darla, check your inbox, her message read. Someone from Carla's team just forwarded me an internal invoice for a retreat expense. It's personal, and it's big. The invoice hit my inbox like a bullet in velvet. Subject line, internal leak. Thought you should see this. The body was bare, just a PDF, no explanation. I opened it. Wellness era, corporate transfer, $30,000, Sedona Spa and Retreat, March 4th, 6. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. The same weekend, Carla posted videos of her sun-soaked yoga poses and those silk white robes, hashtagging everything from self-care queen to earned this. My jaw clenched. I scrolled back through my screenshots. Her caption that day read, rewarding myself for chasing dreams no one else believed in. No one else believed in? I opened my financial documents and dragged the invoice into my desktop folder, created a new one, Fraud, Phase 3. This wasn't a gray area, this was theft. No investor agreement allowed personal expenses that size, especially not while still in pre-launch. Especially not when the algorithm, the one I built, wasn't even functional yet. She'd used stolen money to buy silence, serenity, sunlight. I added the time-stamped screenshots beside the invoice, her face smiling up at the camera with a glass of rosé and someone else's credit. Then I opened my notebook and wrote the phrase in block red ink, personal gain from stolen funds equals sign breach, legal plus ethical. I didn't want to hurt her. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. I clicked over to her profile again. A new post. Carla, eyes closed, steam swirling around her. Captioned, cleansing energy from a long journey. You can't buy peace, you earn it. I laughed, loud, cold. It echoed off my kitchen tiles. Then I opened my legal pad again. New heading, public image versus paper trail. Every influencer caption, every photo, every event date. I was going to map it to the scent, to the lie. She thinks I'll keep playing quiet sister. But I'm done being polite. She'd called it a cleanse. But I knew what it was. She went to the desert to bury her guilt. I'm taking her there to bury the lie. I stayed up that night gathering receipts, legal statutes, investment agreements I still had copies of, screenshots layered over dates, placed next to emails she forgot I still had access to. Then, as I saved the last file in the folder I now called Fraud Dossier Hale Legal Team, a notification pinged. Victor Hale, subject, urgent conflicting claims from your sister. The email subject line was simple. You need this. No greeting, no small talk, just 2 attachments. I opened the first. It was an internal forward. Paul's name at the top, Carla's beneath. The timestamp was from 8 months ago. And the body, just 1 line. Use A's deck, just rebrand and swap the name. I froze. It wasn't just confirmation, it was confession. The second attachment held screenshots, internal Slack threads, strategy calendars, notes about repurposing existing data from early drafts, and framing it like a fresh concept. I hadn't even scrolled to the bottom when another email arrived. Same sender, Linda. I stayed quiet too long, it read. I'm done helping liars. I sat back, exhaled like I'd been underwater for weeks. My hands trembled, not from shock, but from validation. I wasn't alone anymore. Later that day, Linda called. Her voice shook, but it didn't waver. They used me, she said. I saw them twist everything. The first time I brought it up, Carla laughed. Paul told me not to overthink it. But I saw what you built. I watched them rip it off. I can't sit with that anymore. Why now? I asked. Because you're not quiet anymore, she replied. And neither am I. She had more. Recordings, Slack exports, even a copy of Carla's internal memo about owning the narrative. I added every file to a new folder. Allies' witness statements. It felt like pulling the pin on a grenade. I sent it all to Victor Hale's legal team. No monologue, no flourish, just a short message. The truth doesn't beg. It arrives with evidence. Darla was already drafting a press angle. If Victor didn't shut down the launch, we would. Not with rumors, with receipts. By evening, I had 3 calls from unknown numbers. I didn't pick up. I didn't need to. That night, my phone vibrated again. Carla. Her name alone made my skin crawl. Her message, "You're going too far. Don't forget we're family. We don't destroy each other." I stared at it for a long time, then typed back, "You did that already. I'm just printing the receipts." I didn't walk into the launch party. I walked into a courtroom with champagne. The venue pulsed with curated lighting, faux sincerity, and the kind of polished confidence you can't buy unless you're already selling someone else's work. Carla stood under a soft spotlight, mic in hand, smiling like she'd never broken anything in her life. "Thank you for believing in this vision," she said, like it was hers to own. "Wellness Era is more than a company. It's a movement." The audience clapped. Flashes sparked from phones. Investors sipped rosé like it was a sacred rite. I kept walking, past the photographers, past the waiters, straight to the tech crew. "I need the screen," I said. They blinked. One hesitated, but Victor Hale was already making his way toward me, his nod enough to greenlight the shift. I handed them a USB. No more words, no more metaphors, just numbers. Time-stamped truth. The screen went black, then lit up with a title that didn't match any on Carla's pitch. Project Motherframe created April 3rd, 2021. Murmurs spread like smoke. Carla's smile cracked. "This isn't part of our program," she said, her voice tightening. I stepped onto the stage without invitation. 5 months ago, she filed paperwork, I said, eyes scanning the crowd. 3 years ago, I built this. I clicked to the next slide, a screenshot of the Arizona State Registration for Wellness Era, dated November 12, 2023. I clicked again, my original slide deck, formatted with my fonts, my phrasing, my math. Then I opened a PDF, Linda's statement. "This idea predates Carla's involvement by years," I read aloud. Attached are internal emails and communications from Paul Richter, instructing the use of Aileen Reed's original documents, rebranded. The air thinned. Carla stepped forward, trying to steady her voice. "This was always a collaboration. We shaped it together." "No," Victor said, standing now, his voice loud and final. "You misrepresented. That's not collaboration. That's misappropriation. I've pulled my funding." Paul's face drained. I caught the flicker of panic he tried to hide behind a sip of water. It didn't work. Phones came out, reporters took notes. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shake. I looked at Carla and said, "Truth isn't loud, it's final." And tonight it was louder than anything they built. Victor turned to me, his tone calmer now but direct. "We should talk. Tomorrow," he said. "About what comes next, if you want to rebuild this the right way." The applause didn't reach me. I heard it, somewhere distant, like the clinking of glasses behind closed windows. But I didn't absorb it. I didn't need it. Carla's face had cracked, just slightly, but enough for anyone paying attention to see it. Paul had already vanished from the room like he'd never existed. And Victor? He stood tall in the corner, hands folded, eyes locked on me like a man who'd already made his decision. I didn't step up to the mic for approval. I stepped up for reclamation. "This isn't vengeance," I said, voice steady. "It's clarity." And I meant it. I didn't cry. I didn't thank the crowd. I didn't perform for cameras. I said what needed to be said and stepped down. Nothing more. Because truth doesn't need a bow on top. It just needs to be shown. Outside the venue, the night had cooled. Air crisp, sky impossibly quiet. Carla caught up with me before I made it to the curb. Her heels clicked too fast, too loud. "It was supposed to be both of us," she said. I didn't stop walking. "No, it was never both. You just didn't want to walk alone." She didn't respond. She just stared, like maybe I'd say something softer. I didn't. Later, as I waited for the car, my phone buzzed. "Paul, one last message. Sorry it got out of hand." I deleted it without opening. Inside my apartment, Darla sat at my kitchen counter, sipping leftover launch champagne like it was tap water. She didn't say anything. She just raised her glass when I walked in. Victor had already texted, "Let's talk tomorrow. No pressure. Just the beginning." I hadn't replied yet. Instead, I opened my laptop, created a new folder, not rebrand, not revenge, just a single file titled, "Not a Comeback, Just the Start." This wasn't about winning. It wasn't even about proving anyone wrong anymore. I didn't win back a company. I reclaimed myself. The next morning, I walked out of that apartment, my makeshift headquarters for 3 years, the place where I first sketched algorithms on coffee-stained napkins, and I didn't look back. I walked away from the launch, not to start over, but to start louder. 3 weeks later, an anonymous email hit my inbox. Subject line: "Internal memo leak, Carla's retaliation plan." In the end, it wasn't about justice in front of a crowd. It wasn't about payback or applause. It was about choosing to stop shrinking myself to make others comfortable. About understanding that when someone takes your voice, you don't ask for it back. You rebuild it stronger, louder, and unmistakably your own. If you're watching this, and you've ever been made to feel small by a boss, a partner, even family, let me tell you this: you are not dramatic, you are not difficult, and you are not alone. You're just done being quiet. What would you have done in my place? Would you walk away or stand up? If this story moved you, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. If it didn't, I'd love to know why. I'm here to grow too. And if you want more stories like this, real, raw, and unfiltered, don't forget to subscribe. Let's keep this conversation going.